Coming up on Nebraska Stories, all things edible. Meet the Nebraska man who's the cookie king of New York City. And then there's the queen of Czech pastry, vodka, made in Nebraska. Saving sacred indigenous seeds. And Leo Kellner shares the healing power of pie.
There's something magical about combining flour, eggs, butter, and sugar, stirring a batter laden with chocolate chips, and baking that golden brown goodness. It's a lip-smacking wonder of American childhood. And sometimes, it leads you to a dream job.
I was raised in Lincoln, Nebraska, and in college I majored in acting, in theater performance.
Zachary Schmal's original dream involved the bright lights of Broadway.
I came to New York to pursue acting, and I had some successes. I had got some different regional gigs. I love the theater. It's my absolute passion in life, but I needed something that was more stable. You're constantly going from job to job, and in between then you're unemployed, and that's kind of terrifying. So I started working for PR and marketing firms, and it turns out from doing that, I started coming up with brands and started working with a lot of branding and marketing. I think 7 feet's fine, because then
But Zachary soon found that marketing was no less stressful than theater.
During the day, I would go to work and be surrounded by stress, and I would come home at the end of the day and I would bake cookies, and that was what calmed my heart and calmed my spirit and made me happy. I'm not a classic chocolate chip guy. I'm more of a crazy adventurous foodie, and so I loved coming up with crazy fun flavors, and eventually all my friends said, you have to start selling these cookies. And at first I was like, why would I sell these cookies? It's something that I have fun doing. And then it was like, ding, isn't that the whole thing? That you want to end up in a career that you love and that you want to have fun with. And I thought, how would I do a company? My nickname in high school was Zachary Schmackery. It was something that everybody always called me. And so Schmackery hit me. The first thing out of my mouth was lip schmackin' good cookies, and it was perfect. We have a list of 26 doughs that we're making at any given time.
Today, Schmackery's is a hustling, bustling business.
Excellent, thank you.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Sure.
With 26 bakers and 40 different cookie flavors.
This dough was just made about 10 minutes ago.
This is our monster cookie. No calories.
Low calorie.
It's a family business with his mom and dad. But it didn't start out that way. Zachary's budding cookie business began from the cramped quarters of his New York apartment.
I think my parents thought I was crazy when I started Schmackery's. I think they were like, okay, enjoy, your cookies are good, but I didn't really have culinary training. I didn't have experience running my own business, and so I think they just sat and watched on the wings, and I went from selling a couple dozen a day, and then I was getting orders for 50 dozen at a time, and it was crazy, and that's when I moved into a storefront.
Schmackery's opened up just off Times Square, not far from where Zachary's dreams started. And soon, his parents, Jeff and Maria, became his business partners.
I couldn't have been more happy because, there's nobody in the world that you can trust more, and I welcome them with open arms.
Sweet corn cookie, made straight from Huskerland, and it is awesome.
This is the famous Schmackery Smash. We pull out all of our cookies halfway through baking, and we just pat them down to make sure that they look like cookies.
This is Zach's maple bacon. Actually has pieces of bacon in it. And this is my favorite cookie, maple bacon.
Because he's a junk food junkie.
And it's awesome. Good job.
Bacon delicious.
Sweet and savory, just perfect.
But the family bond has become more special. ever since Jeff was diagnosed with terminal cancer.
What can we do to make the best of this time? And it's been really gratifying for just the three of us to be together and working in the store together, getting our hands dirty together, and we just have fun. And then to see it all be a success, it's really been neat.
Anything else? $5. Thanks.
Today, Schmackery's is a $2 million successful gourmet cookie business. And Zachary has finally made his mark in the theater district.
Is the cookie business a metaphor for life? Maybe. I definitely know that it's something warm, makes you feel good, makes you happy, makes you feel like a kid, and that's kind of how I look at life. I'm just a big kid, and I just want to spread love and warmth across the earth. And in a big bad city like New York City, it's a great place to spread a little warmth with my family.
How about red velvet? Did you put a red velvet on there?
In northeast Nebraska, in the small town of Morse Bluff, lives royalty. In fact, some call her the Queen.
Yes, I earned the title of Kolache Queen.
For over 50 years, Nadine Rosick has been mixing, kneading, and baking delicacies that have traveled the world.
I received an order from California, and they wanted 30 dozen kolaches for this wedding. Well, a lady from Omaha, she comes over here and she picks up the kolaches and puts them on the airplane, and they still got there for the wedding in the afternoon. This prevents my liquids here to make a mess. There we go. Now we don't.
Now, Nadine, how did you learn that trick?
My cabinets were spotted.
Rosick gets requests for every type of occasion.
The other day I had a funeral to do, and they wanted 15 dozen kolaches. We bought 28 sacks just the other day, and they'll be gone before long.
And the quantity of the order never deters Rosick from taking the job.
I did 1,500 kolaches for a priest when he was ordained, yeah. But I worked through the night and day. But boy, I'll tell you, those hands really went. That's my favorite spoon, and that thing's about 25 years old. And I love it.
Nadine Rosick's marketing approach is simple.
I have never advertised, never. It's just from mouth to mouth, you know. I never did package up anything. And when they would buy the baking from me, they took them, you know, without being put in a package, because that's kind of as a good advertisement. People noticed, what is she carrying in her hands, see? And where did you get those, see? We're going to leave it rise to the top. And you know, all your recipes say till double.
Sometimes just the word kolache brings on throngs of fans.
We stopped at this marvelous restaurant, and there were 3 guys in there that had come out dressed up fit to kill. And they saw kolache on this license plate. They ran to the car. Do you have kolaches in the car? I said, no, I don't. This is kind of small.
Though Nadine Rosick doesn't always carry kolaches in her car, it is likely that there's always a pan baking in her old farmhouse in Morse Bluff. Many of her customers come directly to the house to pick up the delicious treats. But don't expect Nadine to break her rhythm to stop and chat.
It's a different kind of a pan. I tell them to pick up the order on the porch. And because if I get them in the kitchen, you know what I mean, is they want to bother me and visit, and I love it though. But I'm running 3 pans of different like kolaches on one rack, and then sweet rolls in the second rack, and the third rack is caramel rolls. So I gotta watch that closely. Yeah, so I don't have time to visit, no.
All of that kneading and working with dough has taken its toll.
See, I got that rotary cuff just bad there. And I've got carpal tunnel in my hands. In fact, I had carpal tunnel surgery, and it didn't plan out just right. And so it's kind of hard, to pick up the dough and shape it. But some way, somehow, I managed, but it was my own fault. See, I was supposed to squeeze a ball, and kolaches come first. The first time I'm using this pan here, the bottom is kind of white, and it cost me a fortune. Well, I know where this pan's going. In the junk pile. Okie doke.
While Nadine is happy to bake you her famous kolaches, don't expect her to give you the recipe.
I can't. Not even to my grandchildren. You can't find that recipe in a cookbook. It's something that I just put together, Just kind of taste it, and add this and add that. And by golly, it sure worked out good for me. Come and get it. You bet.
They always go, what brewery do you own? We don't own a brewery, we own a distillery.
In 2009, Jim Brozick and Doug Trainer became owners of Nebraska's first legally operated distillery since the days of Prohibition.
There's a lot of people in the wine business, a lot of people in the brewing business, but there wasn't that many people in distilling because it's a very hard license to obtain.
You must have an operating distillery before they'll give you a license. But it's illegal to own a still. So I asked the federal agent, how can I own a still if we don't have a license, and I can't get a license and if I don't have a still? He said, well, we understand. You just kind of close your eyes and go ahead and do it.
Jim and myself both have families that think that we were crazy when we first got started.
I just listen to all of his ideas and say, sure, honey. He kind of scares me when he wakes up in the middle of the night and says, I have an idea, Carla. It's like, oh boy, here we go.
I'm the distiller, Doug is the president.
It's a highly competitive business, and most craft distilleries produce whiskey. But Jim and Doug make Cooper's Chase vodka.
Cooper's Chase is kind of a character that really doesn't exist. Cooper, I could say, would be me or Jim, because we're always chasing that next ideal, that next hill. Cooper actually is what you call a person that makes barrels. So we're Cooper's Chase. We're chasing our dream.
They chose to make vodka because, unlike whiskey, it doesn't require aging. But, unlike beer and wine, you can't make distilled alcohol at home. Legally. There are universities that offer degrees in distillation. But as Jim shared with the federal inspector, that isn't where Jim learned.
He looked at me and said, where did you get your degree? And I looked him right in the eyes and said, in the Appalachian Mountains of Virginia, because I wasn't going to lie to him. He kind of looked at me for a minute, lowered his clipboard, and then he started laughing. He said, yeah, we know it goes on.
After a successful career as a mechanical engineer, Jim retired and moved to Maryland with his wife. Jim was also in moonshine country.
I asked, does anybody here make moonshine? Of course, the answer is no. It's a federal crime to make moonshine.
But as time passed, Jim got his chance to see a still.
I was so curious and so wide-eyed, I didn't care what it looked like. It was just a still and fun being there. My first thought was, I want to know how they make mash. What grain do you use? How do you ferment grain? I don't care about distilling. Distilling's just boiling water. That would be easy. But I found out, as I got deeper and deeper into the hills, anybody can make mash. It's the distillation that's the trick. That takes a real skill.
Jim's thirst for knowledge continued after he and his wife moved to Nebraska. And that's when he was introduced to his future business partner.
We sat down at my kitchen table, and we didn't even really talk about a business. We talked about distilling.
Doug has a day job managing operations at GSC Livestock Yards in Nebraska. Living and working in the heart of the grain belt seems to be a natural fit for making a corn-based alcohol.
We have several acres of corn at our fingertips right here. Without going any farther into what we do on a daily basis, you know, it takes a lot of grain to produce the amount that you need.
Chase vodka is made from corn and malt, not potatoes.
95% of the vodka sold in America today is made from corn. You can buy potato vodka, you can buy rye or wheat vodka, but those are all rare and not the norm.
A lot of the startup costs are connected to equipment, but Jim's work experience helps save serious money.
With Jim's mechanical engineering knowledge, we built a lot of equipment that would have cost us thousands and thousands of dollars.
Jim built several prototype stills before creating the one they presently use to make Chase vodka.
We had a sheet metal shop in Norfolk make the copper, and Doug's father-in-law did the welding on the stainless steel tank. We built it right here in this room.
We can't show the actual still because, like the recipe, the still design is also kept a secret. There are many other things that go into crafting vodka, but once you get the product in the bottle, you have to get it on the shelf. There are not only many companies making vodka, there are many flavors.
You're going against some big boys, and we are a spec that is in their way.
We're only allowed to sell to a licensed distributor. In Nebraska, we have a three-tiered system: the maker, the distributor, the retailer.
And so far, Chase vodka is available throughout Nebraska.
A lot of people are stunned. A lot of people will say, in Nebraska? And I'll say, yes, out on my farm.
Have you heard of us before? Straighter with some cranberry juice. If you're buying vodka someday, remember, made in Nebraska. Doug and I go out and do samplings, tastings in grocery stores and liquor stores. Make this here in Nebraska. And that's our form of advertising.
But now that Cooper's Chase has received multiple awards, that may be changing.
We've won a gold medal in Best Vodka in America contest. We entered the big contest in San Francisco. That's the World Spirit contest.
It's like entering your animal to the county fair. You're scared to death.
There were 1,612 entries from around the world, and we got a silver medal.
When you put a lot of time, heart, sweat, blood, tears into a product, is almost worth all the heartache that you went through to receive an award like that, because your peers are telling you, hey, you did good.
Yana, oh yana, hey Nate. We yana, yana, oh yana, hey Nate, oh way. Yana, oh yana, hey Nate. We yana, oh yana, hey Nate. We yana, oh. This is what was formerly known as my backyard, and is now home to the Four Sisters. Corn bean, squash, and the sunflower. My Western given name is Taylor Keene, but I carry other names as well. Among the Omaha tribe, I carry the name Bagija, which means buffalo mane. This effort here is called Sacred Seed. Sacred Seed is, for the most part, around the Four Sisters. From the Four Sisters comes all the bounty and all of life. First sister is the corn. We know, scientifically speaking, that it takes a lot of minerals, most of which is nitrogen. And so the second sister, the bean, we like the pole climbing beans, but they put the nitrogen right back into the soil. The third sister, squash. Where there's squash, I don't know if it's in the little hairs on the vines or the flowers or what, but the raccoons will not step foot into my backyard here. And the sunflowers, they pull a lot of the heavy metals out of the ground if there's any. So it helps purify everything. But their main purpose is, I discovered again this summer, is as a windbreak. It's an obstacle course back here. We put a considerable amount of time and effort trying to find non-GMO indigenous heirloom seeds. Experimented with some southern varietals. Have a green Oaxacan. We're fighting a cultural bias within it as well. Corn, especially here in Nebraska, is synonymous with apple pie. Our quote, Indian corn is only ornamental and is sold only around Thanksgiving time. And most people don't even think it's edible, but where does corn come from? It comes from us. After I began to find seed, then I sat down with many of the elders within our tribe and asked for their advice and blessing, as it were, that it would be a good thing to do again. In my mind, I envisioned a future where everyone in my tribe could be corn planters again, that somehow we could sustain ourselves, be economically self-reliant again. The whole notion that I refer to as living red is getting back to living the way indigenous people should. Grow your own food. Deep red. Take care of it, foster it, love it, and then it will love you back. Way on na, he on na, oh way on na, and they away.
If you're looking for a good dessert in Hastings, you can find plenty of places to get a sweet treat, but some of the city's tastiest pies and cakes come from the kitchen of this small home, where Leo Kellner has lived for more than 6 decades.
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you, Leo.
Red velvet's my favorite.
The doorbell seems to always be ringing here.
All right, we'll see you later.
As friends stop by to pick up one of Leo's culinary creations.
Christmas, and thank you so much for making this cake.
Thank you again.
Yeah, okay.
Leo spends his days in the kitchen, gladly, baking hundreds of pies and cakes every year.
My crust is flaky and tastes like more or less like a cookie.
And Leo Kellner is 98 years old.
I gotta have something to do. I'd be dead if I wouldn't be doing this. I lay at night in bed and think how I can change things, make things better. I've changed my pie 3 times, apple pie.
Leo grew up during tough times in the 1930s, watching his mom and sister bake with whatever ingredients they happened to have. He spent a lifetime working with irrigation and grain drying businesses. He didn't retire until he was 92. That's when Madeline, his wife of 72 years, got sick and passed away.
I started 4 months or so after my wife died. I was sitting there not knowing what to do with myself. You know, I was used to working and I'd given up what I was doing, you know. And I was sitting here in the house and I said to myself, I can bake.
He made 144 apple pies that first year and hasn't stopped since. You might think it provides a great retirement income for Leo, but the thing is, he doesn't charge a cent. He gives every one of his pies and cakes away for free to friends, those who are sick, or to hospice volunteers, to those attending a funeral, to an elderly woman, or a man who just can't afford a good meal.
You don't know what that means to a person. Unless you went poor like I was years ago. I would have been so tickled if my folks could have given me a pie or a cake, you know, or something. So I lived that life. And that's why I am happy when I can help somebody, put a smile on their face.
Hey, Leo.
Leo is even building a pie-making legacy. He's mentoring 12-year-old Maddie Music, teaching her how to bake because, as Leo puts it, girls today need to know more than just how to run a computer.
What's up, Genda? He's like my other grandpa, kind of. When I get older, I want to bake for my kids and teach them how to do it. And even if they don't like it, just who doesn't love food anyway?
I consider her just more than a friend, like part of me. When I go, I want her to take over where I left off. Because I think she will.
He can share his recipes with Maddie, but she'll soon learn Leo adds something to his pies and cakes that you can't buy in a grocery store.
I make it with love. I don't make it just to be making it. I make it with love. It's my secret ingredient.
Watch more Nebraska Stories on our website, Facebook, and YouTube. Nebraska Stories is funded by the Margaret and Martha Thomas Foundation.